In 10.3, we are going to advance on to volume of pyramids and cones. The big difference between the volume of pyramids and cones is that we find out that when you find the volumes of these things, we get the volumes of pyramids and cones being 1/3 the area of the base times the height. So as I look back in my repertoire here, what we notice is probably the most challenging thing that we see is finding the area of the base in this particular pyramid. The base is a regular polygon that's a hexagon, and when you're finding this area, you have to use that special formula, 1/2 the apothem times the perimeter. And when I do that, what I see is I know that in this particular example, as I look down below, that I have a apothem that is 3√3, and I have a perimeter that, since I have 6, will be 6 times 6. So if I want to find the area of this particular base, what I would do is I would take 1/2 times the apothem, which is 3 times the square root of 3, times the perimeter, which would be 36, and I would multiply all these things out together. So the 36 divided by 2 is 18. 18 times the 3 on the outside of the radical is 54, and then there's a square root of 3. If you wanted to, you could actually multiply this out on your calculator, but for right now, I'm just going to write it down as 54 times the square root of 3. This area, 54 times the square root of 3, is the area of the base. Now, once I have the area of the base of my pyramid, the way I'm going to find the volume is that my volume is going to be 1/3 times the area of my base times the height of my pyramid. So in this case, that means I have 1/3 times the area of my base, which we just found was 54 times the square root of 3, and then multiply that by the height of my pyramid, which in this case is 8. When I multiply these all together, remembering that I had to find originally the area of my base using the area of a regular polygon from a few lessons back, then I end up with a final result, and I can calculate this on my calculator, so give me one moment here. And I'm going to pause and then write down the answer. And in the end, we find out when we multiply all these things together that we get a grand total of 249.42 centimeters cubed as our volume. And so, as you're going through this, the big idea here is this is almost exactly the same as our cylinder and prism formula. The difference is whenever you have a cone or a pyramid, which both come to points, instead of having 2 bases, they have 1, then you just multiply by 1/3. We'll see that again as we do some more problems. In the next slide here, we have the same idea, and so I have a cone, and in the cone, you'll notice that our volume formula works the same as our pyramid. It's 1/3 times the area of the base times the height of the cone. So here is the area of the base. So our volume formula works the same as a pyramid. The volume equals 1/3 the area of the base times the height of the cone, just as a reminder. And so down below here, we know down below that they tell us that the volume is 24. So I know that 24 is equal to 1/3 times the area of the base, which in this case, since it's a circle, is pi times 3 squared, because they tell us that the radius is 3 down below, times the height of that cone, which is unknown, and that's what we're searching for. So volume, they gave us, here it was, the volume, 24. They also gave us that the radius was 3. That's why I have the 3 here in my formula. And we always talk about, as usual, that when we find these volumes, we need the area of the base, and that's what this thing was, because it was the circle. And I plug everything into that formula, and when I get done and I divide, I can take the 24, like in my calculator, if I was doing this problem. What I would do is I would take my calculator and I would say that my height would be equal to the 24 that I saw on the left-hand side of that equation, divided by parentheses 1/3 times pi times 9. When I type that all into my calculator, out should pop 8 inches. Feel free to give that a try on your calculator right now to make sure that you know how to type stuff properly into your calculator. But when you have something set up and you're trying to find out one variable, all you do is divide everything that you see on that side into whatever was on the other side of the equation to find your final answer. That's why we have 24 divided by everything that you see now underlined in light blue. And here it is again.